Hi everyone and welcome back to the last episode in our series, in which I will show you how to display the messages and the chat room. First, let's display the messages, but for that we'll need a query, a Firestore recycler options object and an adapter. So let's get started. First, let's create our query, which is retriev collections of messages, document, and we pass the room ID, collections of room messages, and let's order this by sent at property, and let's also set the direction to be ascending. Now let's create the Firestore recycler options object and also set the query, which is query and our message class. Before we create the adapter class, let's first create a viewHolder class. And let's simply name it message viewHolder with an internal constructor that uses a single field of type view. Let's import this class, and inside this viewHolder class, let's define a function, and let's call it setMessage with a single argument of type message. Inside this function, let's define a text view, and we have text view, find view by ID, r.id.textView, and let's get now our text view and set the text with the message text. As you can see, we have here an error, and this is because we haven't created the layout yet. But let's do this now. Actually, we'll have to create two layouts. So let's go to our res folder, layout, and we have new layout resource file. And let's call first layout simply item message 2, and the second one item message from. Let's open our item message 2 XML file, and let's change this constant layout to a relative layout. Let's also set this to wrap content. Inside this layout, let's create a text view, which will be wrap content and wrap content. Let's assign in an ID, which will be text view. Let's set the layout margin to 12 dp. Let's set the text size to 25 sp, and let's also set the padding to 10 dp. Now let's copy all this code and let's paste it over here. In this file, we need to make a change. We need to set this view align parent end, and this is because we want the sender messages to be aligned right. If we go back to the chat activity, we see that our error is gone. Now let's create the background for our items, and for that let's create two new drawable resource files. The first one would be message2, and the second one would be message from. Let's increase this a little bit, and let's change this selector to a shape. Let's now set the shape to a rectangle, and let's define the color as this code FFCCCC. I have chosen this color, but you can use any color you want. Let's also set the corners. The top left radius, let's set it to 5 dp, and let's set the radius to 15 dp. Now let's copy all this code and let's paste it over here. But we need to make a change. Let's change this left radius to right radius, and let's also change the color to E6FFFF. Now let's set these backgrounds in our resource files. Let's set our background to drawable message 2, and let's do this in the other resource file, and let's change this to message from. And that's it with these backgrounds. Now let's get back to our chat activity to create our adapter class. So we have an inner class named messageAdapter with an internal constructor that has a single argument, a Firestore Recycler Options object, which extends Firestore Recycler Adapter. And we are using our Options object as an argument. But as you can see, we have an error. And this is because our message view holder class does not extend the right class. So let's extend recycler view view holder. Now, inside our message adapter class, let's implement two methods, which are onCreateViewHolder and onBindViewHolder. Inside our onCreateViewHolder, let's create an if statement. If our view type is equal to our item message to layout, then let's find the view and inflate it from our parent context and inflate our item message to layout. And now let's pass parent and false, else the second and the third argument. And now let's create a new object of our message view holder class and pass our view object as an argument. Let's return this, and let's also create the else part of our statement. Let's copy these two lines of code and let's paste them over here. And let's change this item message to item message from. Inside our onBindViewHolder function, let's call setMessage on our holder object and pass our model object as an argument. Let's implement another function named getItemViewType, and let's create an if statement and return if fromUID isn't equal to getItem of our position. Let's return our item message to layout. Otherwise, we'll return our item message from layout. Let's make now this fromUID a global variable, and we have private var fromUID, which is of type string, and let's remove this val from this line of code. And as you can see, Android Studio is complaining about this change, so let's add this double exclamation marks in every place is needed. And as you can see, we have an error. Oh, yes, because we need to call the fromUID. And let's now implement another function, which is onDataChange, which will help us set the position to the last item. So we have our recycler view, layout manager, scroll to position of item count -1. Let's create now another global variable, but this time for our adapter, and call it simply adapter. Let's instantiate it in our onCreate function by passing the options object as an argument. But as you can see, we have an error, and this is because we forgot to call build in here. Let's find our recycler view and set the adapter to this adapter. Let's also don't forget to set the title to the username of the user who receives the message, which is this. Let's also implement two more functions. The first one is onStart, and let's check if our adapter isn't equal to null, then we can start listening for changes. Let's implement another one, which is onStop, and let's copy these lines of code and let's paste them over here. And let's change this to stop listening. There is one more thing that we need to do, and this is to display the chat rooms. Guys, you can create a method for this, and I recommend that, but for the simplicity of this tutorial, I'm opening the chat activity and I'll copy all these lines of code and I'll paste them over here. in our onStart function. Let's import these classes. Let's do some changes. Let's change this ref from contacts to collections of rooms, and let's also change this to user rooms. Let's also change the name of the reference to user rooms ref, and let's also get the room ID from our list of rooms. And let's also remove this finish call. And this is pretty much it with this application. Before testing our application in the emulator, let's do a correction, and let's change our query by adding a T in this order by function. It should be sent at. I have my emulators running, and let's open our chat app on the first emulator. I have cleaned up my database so we can start from the beginning. Let's start a conversation with the second user, and let's say simply hi. Let's also open our application on the second emulator, and as you can see, we already have an active chat room. Let's also open this conversation, and let's also send a message. Let's also send another message. And you can see it works pretty fine, exactly as in our introduction video. From now, you can continue this tutorial by adding new features, like sending images, location, files, and so on. You can also change these backgrounds with those fancy bubbles. You can also use pagination, as I explained in one of my tutorials that I have added the link in the description below. So that's it with this application. You'll find in the description below a link of the entire project from GitHub. If you have any suggestion for other tutorials, please leave your message in the comment section below. So hope you guys found this tutorial useful. Please don't forget to subscribe, and see you in a future video.